We're talking about the nodal axis shift into Pisces and Aries, active from the end of January 2025 until July of 2026. So a year and a half period. Today's video will focus more on the nodes, specifically on the transits. So the movement of the other planets to the nodes when they intersect in what is called a conjunction or conjoining, coming together in the same place in the sky, as well as I will be looking at some of the other aspects. This is Vivía at your soul's well. Thank you for being here with me, beloved souls. So we're going to jump right in. All right. As you can see, this is the first chart, the moment that the node entered into this sign of Pisces. It's right here. See, it's right here. And then right here, we have the node entering into Libra. Immediately when the node entered in, it's already applying to a conjunction with Neptune, which means that it's coming in close. This won't exact until it will exact on February 7th, and I will show you that chart as we go along. So the energies of both of these, and we can see here that there's a really big, don't worry about the midheaven here. Normally I take that out, but it's not taken out of this one. We can see that there's a lot of energy here in the sign of Pisces. So again, Pisces is the mystic and the dreamer, but it also is about disillusionment, right? And deception and lies. It's the other side of there's always different aspects to all of the different signs, and for Pisces this can be deception and disillusionment. So as these nodes are coming together, I've already addressed some of it. I'm trying to think of some new things to tell you. In the sign of Pisces, there's a lot, this is a water sign, there's lots of hidden depth and uncovered, like things that can be really submerged, right? Think of oceans and think of how easy it is to lose something in an ocean, and think of emotions, because it's water and it's our emotions, so the depth of our emotions. And then both of these points, both the North Node and Neptune, have this quality of, well, the North Node brings this exaggerated and amplified energy to this, and Venus is present, and Venus is this energy and a planet that represents beauty and harmony and the currency, our money systems, and she's the natural signifier of the house of Taurus, of the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is about the economy. And so Venus here is exalted, which means that she is working at her very best. It's one of the places that she loves the best in the chart. So for the ingress chart, this is really beautiful energy. Saturn is there too. So Saturn is a principle of constriction, but also of mastery, of working very hard over time to create something. It's commitment. It's Saturn always stays in one sign for a year and a half, so it's been here for a while, and it will be leaving later on this year. This energy is here in this house, and it's the energy of Saturn just is bringing stability to and even some groundedness, I think, to this Piscean part of the chart that is not very grounded and that can have problems with grounding, as I had spoken to in the previous video. So the moon is forming a square here. The moon is squaring to this house, and so it is squaring particularly Neptune, but it is also squaring the North Node. So the moon is our feelings, our emotions, our internal workings, our psyche, right? And this brings about a challenge for us, but that challenge, oftentimes I see that challenge is necessary to grow us. You'll probably have, if you've listened to my videos, you've probably heard me say that already. Now, we also have a few of the planets in retrograde. Mars is in retrograde in Cancer, and Mars does not function that well in Cancer, and it's retrograde. So it's the planet of action, and it's a planet that is very oriented to doing things and moving things forward. So it's not necessarily, this is not its easiest placement. But the overall energy I sense with this ingress chart is a fairly, as I already had mentioned before, bringing about a very surreal state and a very surreal and mystical state. So just as the initial ingress chart. Now, the second chart I want to show you is the very first conjunction of Venus to the North Node on February 1st, 2025. The moon is present, Neptune is present, and still So basically, all these planets are in conjunction. Neptune, the North Node, Venus, and the Moon. So the Moon, again, is our psychology, our inner workings. It can represent our home as well, and our mother, or mothering, or nurturing. And then Venus, wealth and assets and relationships and affection and beauty and love and harmony. And then North Node, the destiny point where we have to move. And then Neptune, planet of spirituality and spiritual growth, is having this really magical element to it, very mystical, magical, just energy that just helps us really. I just find that this is just such amazing energy just right off the bat for us to have for this North Node. And as I had said, I think that this is a really good blessing to bring this North Node into Pisces. And because the North Node and Pisces do not conjoin, they do not meet up very often. The last time they met up in a sign was in 2008. I think that it was in Aquarius. And then this is just very rare. And it's rare because the last time they met up, so it's really rare. The last time that they met up was on January 2nd, 1858. So quite a number of years ago, very long time ago. And this is so for them to be meeting up again in the sign of Pisces and to have the Moon present and Venus present. I think this also speaks to peace on the world front, because the Moon is representative of the people and the masses, and Venus is a symbol of peace. The North Node is where we're moving to, and then the spiritual, just the gathering of spirituality and us coming together for that, and then the longevity of it as represented by Saturn. So that's what I see here, and definitely a longing for that peace and a longing for lasting peace with Saturn there. That's what I see with that. The next date I'd like to show you is Neptune, either February 6th or 7th, depends on where you are in the world. It's the date that Neptune actually conjuncts or conjoins. And again, that means they're in the sky together at 28 degrees. You can see here of Pisces. And as I just said, this is very rare. This is only going to happen once in our lifetimes. And it's just, again, I think it's going to bring such, in our personal lives, an opportunity for magical moments and just an opening for spiritual things. This is probably a very good day and it's going to depend, of course, on your own personal chart. It's going to depend on that, but this is probably a really good day for spiritual practices. I wonder if there'll be like an explosion of dreams, because just really the dream world waking up for us. Also, one of the things I really wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to say in the last video is we should expect to see a lot of change in, media, but film especially, because that's what Neptune has domain over. It has domain over the film industry, photography, any visual creative thing. It does also deal with music, Pisces and Neptune, but film and the visual arts, I see an explosion of it that I think will really last a long time, because remember, Saturn is present here as well in this house. And I just think that it will just bring the longevity to whatever is being created right now and being launched right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the world stage, to see what gets released or launched. And in your own personal life, this is very good energy. Venus is already here in Aries, and she's already moved out of Pisces, but she's left her energy there and her benevolence, and the Moon has moved on as well. Mars is still in retrograde. Pluto is here, right? And we have this energy here in Aquarius. So there's a bit of a stellium here in Aquarius. Mercury coming into a combustion with the sun. When a planet gets very close to the sun within 17 or so degrees, it's said to be combust. And what that means, it's not working as well as it would, Mercury represents our mind, communication, commerce, our money systems as well. And so these things, it also has domain over siblings and your immediate neighborhood, travel, vehicles, your own personal vehicle, like your car that you use to travel around, taking short distance trips. And so when Mercury is coming so close to the sun like that, it's like the sun blinds us from seeing Mercury. And in astrological symbology, it translates into not being able to use this planet as well as we normally could use it when it's in a stronger place. So there's not as much, I just see more visual things on the visual front and less on the spoken or written or communicated mentally. And that makes sense as well to me. One thing I want to say is that there's going to be lots of new moons and lots of full moons throughout this whole process. There'll be a new moon and a full moon every month. sometimes more than once throughout the whole process that the nodes are in the signs of Pisces and of Virgo. But this is one, I'm going to cover this one as well as the eclipses, but this one is not an eclipse. It is on February 27th here, and it's important because it's happening here at 9 degrees of Pisces, and then later on, I want you to pay attention. If you journal, just maybe start journaling around this time. And if you remember that these points and these times and these dates don't happen in isolation, they're all a string of events. And this new moon, and also this is the exact date of the new moon, but in astrology, things can lead up to the new moon. And so a trigger point might happen. Things might happen before this date, and it might happen after the date as well. So this is just a rough guide, okay? And if you're just take note if anything in your life changes or happens. And as I said, I will do the breakdown of each of the signs so you can have a better understanding of where in your life, like what area of your life this new moon might affect. And new moons tend to bring in new beginnings, new things, new relationships, just newness. It's a new moon. Think newness and beginnings and starts to things. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because later on next year, February 11th, and I will show you that chart when I get there, it's the point where Mercury is going to conjoin the North Node right here. Okay. And then because all these planets here, you see how I just explained that the moon and Venus and the North Node and Neptune were all conjunct. Well, see here, Mercury is moving up and it's going to conjunct as well, the North Node. Eventually the sun will as well. It'll come up and meet this point. The moon is already, see how the moon had already conjuncted it. It went all the way around the chart and is back in this point here, coming up again to another conjunction to the North Node. So the moon will do it over and over once a month. And once a month, it'll oppose it because it just goes around the chart very fast. The sun will come in conjunct soon. Eventually, Saturn will conjunct it. So all of these planets here, Venus, Mercury, the moon, and the sun will conjunct the North Node. But they will also conjunct it. Venus will, Mercury will, and the sun will next year as well. And this point here is the point where next year, when Mercury is in retrograde, it's going to conjunct the North Node again and bring back themes that are happening right now around this time of February 27th, because it's going to retrace this place in the sky. So pay attention to that and record. Are you starting something new or launching something new or getting something off of the ground? It would be great to go back to this moment a year from now and see what themes came up, what is being presented. That would be interesting to document. Now, also, when I get there, I will show you that all these planets are going to again conjunct, and Venus, the sun, Mars, and then Mercury again, when it moves direct, are going to be here almost in the same place at 8 degrees. Not quite 9, but almost. Not all at the same time. They're staggered, but still they do it. And so that's why I want to show you this one new moon chart, because it's actually very important to the cycle, I believe. So now here's Mercury's conjunction this year on March 1st to the North Node. You can see that here that Mercury is at 27 degrees and so is the node. They are still conjuncting as well Neptune. So Mercury is a sign of communication and Neptune again is this ethereal energy. And so I think that there could be a lot of news, breaking news around anything in the media, something maybe about arts, maybe it could be about spirituality, but in our own lives, messages like communication from the divine and really paying attention to our intuition, to our psychism, to our dreams, because this is information coming in for us. All these planets here together, and Saturn is pretty close there too, right? So all these planets here together, downloads of information. That's what I can see here. And I can see just, moments of maybe divine inspiration, miracles happening in our own personal lives and maybe on the world front. And so that's another key moment to pay attention to. The word bliss comes up and surrealism, and I'll probably use those a lot. So excuse me if I do, but I just can't help to. Again, don't forget that this is quite a bit of energy in Pisces. So just trying as much as possible to take care of the body and stay connected to the body. It's going to be important to stay grounded. That's going to be important in this time period. The first lunar eclipse that we'll have will be on March 13th or 14th, depending on where you are in the world. And this is what the chart will look like. And at this point in time, there's lots of energy still here in Pisces. Still these, like, keep in mind that Saturn and Neptune move pretty slowly, with the moon at 23 degrees, almost at 24, and the sun is here. A lunar eclipse is always a full moon, and the sun and the moon will always be opposite to each other then in the chart. And so again, just carrying on with that same similar energy. By now, Mercury has moved on. The sun is here. And so the sun is about our ambitions and our goals. It represents more of our goals and our free will and how we move ourselves forward. It can represent men in the chart and just how we action things is part of that too. So just our purpose a lot of times is shown also through the sun. And so when the sun is coming up here, this is another part of our, like, this, I just consider this the conscious intelligence of the zodiac is the sun, right? This life-giving force. So that you think this vitality is here, and it's not in an exact conjunction, but it's very close here, obviously, and conjoining here, coming up, applying to a conjunction to the North Node. So that means it's coming up to the conjunction, it's coming up to that same place in the sky. So again, because Pisces is still there, I mean, Neptune is still there, and then they're all in Pisces, it's just that same quality, spirituality opening up and us becoming more conscious of our spirituality and maybe directing it more, maybe by this time, having an understanding after all those downloads and that information from the cosmos, having an understanding of where we want to direct this to and how we want to move this and where we want to put this forward. And the sun is here and it's conjunct Saturn too. So again, maybe devising a long-term plan, because Saturn deals with the long-term and time and commitment, and a long-term plan over how you want to, again, action or purpose this newfound spirituality or this opening gift that you might be experiencing. And so by the 17th, so just a few days after that first lunar eclipse, the sun is in complete conjunction to the North Node. So it's just following the same thing that I just said. And now what we have to remember about eclipses is that they're portals and they're openings that bring in energy for us. And with a lunar eclipse, it's a closing, but the sun was there, so that's also an opening. It's just kind of a bit of an oxymoron, but that's why I kind of see this too, like part of the dissolving of the linear time. When I was looking at all of these charts, and I had referenced that in my previous video on the nodal axis shift, the one right prior to this one, just this dissolving away and things being less physical, less tangible. And this is partly why, because on one hand, a lunar eclipse is meant to be the closing, like a full moon is where we come into culmination. The moon completely culminates. It comes to its fullest peak. And that representation to us here on Earth is that something in our lives is coming to a culmination and is forming to its grandest peak. And usually a lunar eclipse signals a closing. And with the sun there, though, with the North Node, because the North Node point is the opening and newness, it's going to be a bit of both. That's what I think. Closings and endings, karmic closings and endings too, karmic closures overall. But then as well as these new fated destiny points arising and opportunities for us to step into. And so by the time the sun gets to its conjunction here with the North Node, it's already been informed. It's already been part of that eclipse. It's already leaving behind what needs to be left behind and moving forward into the new. So remember that and take that with you through that eclipse season. So now by the end of March 29th this year, 2025, we have a solar eclipse. And I forgot to mention the last time that I was talking about the new moon that happened at 9 degrees. Remember, I just showed you that one? The new moon that happens on February 27th at 9 degrees. Well, this solar eclipse here is at the same degree. Can you see it here? A solar eclipse is a new moon and it's Aries. So if you notice, the node is here and the eclipses happen when the sun and the moon are close enough and lined up to the nodes. But they have to be, I think, within about 17 degrees. They're both a bit different. So a solar eclipse will occur about anywhere from 15 to 18 degrees out of the North Node. That is why the eclipse is happening in Aries and not in Pisces. It's still close enough to be considered an eclipse and they're lined up. That's what's important. Now, this is the same thing following through that usually a solar eclipse brings an energy, right? And it helps helps us to, a solar eclipse brings an energy and it helps us to create and to, bring about new things and brings new energy. And it's again, things that are meant to happen, things that were destined and planned to happen on your path that you chose as a soul. And that's why you chose your chart the way you did and all those things that come with your life. So that's this. And it's at 9 degrees, that same degree that the new moon happened in earlier in the month on the 27th of the month, and very, very close to where all the other planets next year are going to line up and be as well conjuncting with the North Node, their last conjunction before the node moves out. On April 1st of this year, 2025, Venus makes its second conjunction. I briefly went through this, so I won't be doing too much, but it's because Venus conjuncted, moved forward into Aries, and then retrograded back. So this is her second conjunction. Mercury is still co-present. And again, this is our second opportunity at whatever it is what we're working on in our lives, whether it's increasing our income or finances or beautifying our life or working on a relationship or trying to achieve harmony. This is going to give us a chance to reevaluate what we are doing. Is it working for our best good? Because that's what we do when Venus moves retrograde. Into retrograde motion, Venus is all about our values. And when it moves retrograde, we assess and reassess, are we where we want to be with this? And this is going to be a really great opportunity, a second pass here to connect with the North Node of destiny that will help bring us forward. And again, now Saturn is getting closer and closer to this point. And at this point in time, Saturn is actually sextiling here Uranus. It's sextiling Uranus, and with the moon coming up, applying to a conjunction to Uranus. So this might be a really interesting day. The moon generally, it is April 1st, April Fool's Day. The moon again rules over the people, our emotions, our home, and Uranus can be a planet of sudden change and unexpected events and occurrences. It also rules over new technology, the internet, crypto, aviation. So something here I think might happen around this date. Maybe some type of something becoming very stable. What I can see here is because planet here, Saturn stabilizing something here with its sextile and the moon coming up, something that will really affect the masses. I think it will be good and it'll be long term because this node here is here and it's pushing us forward and Venus is here. So it's kind of a reevaluation. So by this time, Mercury and Venus are in reevaluation, they're both in retrograde, I meant to say. And so with Mercury as well, we're reevaluating, reassessing and rethinking is what we do when Mercury goes retrograde. So that will be an interesting date to watch. On April 21st of this year, 2025, Saturn comes into exact conjunction with North Node. Venus is still co-present. By this time, Venus is out of her retrogression. By this point as well, Neptune has moved out of Pisces, and this is huge and it's significant. It really is. And what I meant to say before about Pisces conjuncting the North Node and how it doesn't happen very often is because Neptune conjuncting the North Node doesn't happen very often because Neptune is a very slow moving planet. I think 160 years it takes to revolve around the whole zodiac. So it doesn't come back to the same place in the chart for that long. So when a planet, one of the outer planets comes to a conjunction with a point, it's a big deal because it doesn't happen like every month like the moon does or once a year like the sun does or the other planets. So there's more emphasis and there's more of a profound sense to it and can bring profound change in our lives. And that's why it's such a big deal. And that's why you'll hear lots of astrologers talking about this right now because it's a really big deal. And I think it is really opening us up to our higher levels of awareness and consciousness and who we are as multidimensional beings within our own bodies, our own DNA, and the restructuring of us as we consider ourselves human. Now, with this Neptune coming into conjunction, again, something here, something very new being very solidified for us as much as possible. What I mean by solidified, I mean it becoming a very real thing when I see Saturn. Saturn is like the reality check. So also anything to do with lies or deception or the fogginess, when Saturn gets to this point, so around April 21st, give or take a little bit before, I think that there is going to be some stuff that comes up, especially since Saturn is here and the North Node, and they're forming a sextile here to Uranus, right? It's not exact, but it's still there. And And I think at this point, because remember, Uranus is shocking and sudden changes. So maybe some shocking news with media, with things that we see online, especially visual stuff, learning that stuff that we've seen isn't real. Perhaps there's deception around it, learning things like that. And maybe some gurus or spiritual people, maybe some news coming out, or like exposure around that, or a reality check. It's not so much news as it is a reality check around that reality check around these things, because just coming into our awareness and us being again aware. And then Venus is here still, and just still a sense bringing a sense of harmony and wanting that harmony and that beauty, the wish for the beauty. So these planets that are all here are still with Venus exalted there, because this is Venus's strength, position of strength. She still is in shadow, but she's still in a position of strength because she's exalted in Pisces. In a sense, will make these also easier, I think. Definitely the North Node in Pisces is really happy there. But yeah, I just still see some stuff there with some type of, maybe even some restriction, because it's Saturn. So I know I showed you this, but I'm showing you again, but I'll just cover it briefly. This is Venus's third conjunction with the North Node. It happens on April 23rd of this year, 2025. Yeah, so this is our third opportunity. So Saturn is there. So whatever's happening here in April, I think that there's going to be, because by this time Venus has come here, she's passed once, she's come back, and she's now in forward motion. And I just think that this is a good opportunity for something very long term, something like if you end up in a relationship at this point in time, I think that could end up being a really great relationship that lasts a long time for several facts, because Saturn is here conjuncting as well, and Venus is the planet of love, and the North Node is obviously our destiny point, and with Pisces is just the sign of the soulmate. So I can see a lot of people, especially, well, this one is a Scorpio rising. Isn't that interesting? This chart ended up as Scorpio rising, because I was just going to say, especially for Scorpio rising people, because this is their fifth house. So it's also creative endeavors, right? Anything creative, anything visual, anything artistic, anything imaginative, anything spiritual, but definitely spiritual and relational things. Venus will still be in shadow. She doesn't leave shadow till mid-May, which means that she's still covering old ground. She's still covering old ground, but I think this is still great energy and a great opportunity. And especially too, if you are in a relationship or something that's already developed, could be a time and an opportunity to develop it and deepen it even further. A deeper commitment to a loved one, or a love project, or something that really stirs your soul. That's what I see there. On August 15th of this year, 2025, Venus, just after conjuncting Jupiter, is going to trine the North Node. So it'll be 120 degrees away in the sky from the North Node. That's what a trine is. And so this is really, oh my gosh, wonderful, wonderful energy. Just together, the benefics are together. Jupiter is the greater benefic and Venus is the lesser benefic. So bringing lots of harmony and lots of beauty and lots of great energy and expanding this point here. By this time, the North Node is all by itself here, itself in Pisces, moving through it, almost halfway through. And this energy is just, it forms this harmonious, beautiful trine. They actually form a grand trine. If you consider the midheaven here, you can just see a triangle here. There's this beautiful grand trine. So something is really going to be visible something very visible happening, very, and very harmonic and just wonderful and such a benevolent, amazing, amazing energy. And down here, Saturn and Neptune are in conjunction. Now, they also are going to conjunct at the 0 degrees point, the creator point, which is really amazing, but I have to cover that in the different video. And then they move on and they're conjuncting here and moving in retrograde. They're both going to move back into Pisces and moving in retrograde. So this is just another really auspicious, amazing day. Plan something on this day if you can. Do something. It's a Friday night. Go out. This might be just so much abundance, and I can see so much abundance and prosperity here. Venus is maybe on the markets too, something that drives the collective forward around this time period when Venus is coming up and coming into a trine here with the North Node. Because remember, Venus is our money and our finances, rules over Taurus, which is also food and the physical substance to our possessions and our money. So all those things I see happening there. On September 3rd of this year, 2025, Jupiter then comes into an exact trine with the North Node right here. So again, some of that same energy. So Venus has come through already, deposited her energy there with Jupiter, informed him, left him blessed, even more blessed than he normally is. And now Jupiter is in this exact trine. So I just see a continuation of what I was speaking to before, this benevolent, harmonious energy being formed here. And by this time, Saturn is back in Pisces. Neptune is still in retrogression as well, but is still in Aries. So just something really, just again, really benevolent energy, another really great opportunity for doing something, taking a risk, acting bold, moving your future along in a daring way that perhaps you hadn't ever been daring enough to do. This is a great day. I think that's a lot of really good energy. But remember too, still, these two energies together are expansive, right? And bring a lot of energy, a lot of oomph with them. And in Pisces, that can be really unsettling, ungrounding, because Pisces is the energy of dissipation, right? Dissipation. So things can become murky and foggy and not as tangible. And Jupiter is bringing more of this energy. So just keep that in mind. So on September 7th of this year, 2025, we are going to have a lunar eclipse here in Pisces. So the moon is now even closer to the North Node. We have here the sun here in Virgo. And again, Mercury is coming up very close to the sun. So another combustion of Mercury. So this one is full on all about closures, all about closing off something in your life, in this area of your life, the Virgo and the Pisces axis. So again, about healing and health and toxicity and spirituality and embodiment and mysticism and creativity. And it will depend on where it falls in your chart. But overall, this is the chart and the impression and the imprint that we have for it. Benevolent Jupiter is still in trine and it's sextiling here. So we have a really nice triangle that just is harmonious and just beautiful and bringing this energy in. By this time, Uranus has moved into Gemini. So it's going to be fast moving. By this point in time in the year, it's going to be fast. And eventually Saturn moves out too. And that's another thing about these times, right? We have like all the planets, all the other outer planets changing signs, the 5 outer planets changing signs from water and earth. And I'm including Jupiter in this, by the way, from water and earth signs to air and fire. And air and fire are fast, where the water and earth are slower. So we're going to be moving at unprecedented rates, like moving through things fast. So for myself, I'm trying to process as much as I can, honestly, as fast as I can, but mean, we all have to just do our best, right? And letting things go as easy as you can, like just let them go, like let them slide off, like water off a duck's back. Just let it be that way, because this is how fast we're going to move. And this is this lunar eclipse point. Then on September 21st of this year, we have a solar eclipse here in the sign of Virgo at 29 degrees. And 29 degrees is the critical degree, and that it's a crisis orientated degree because it's the very last degree of the sign and it's moving into the next sign. And so this too, I just see like it really important. And as I stressed in the first video about the nodes moving into Pisces and into Virgo, it's really important to take care of our health, to not ignore our health right now. I think at this point in time, if any of us have been ignoring our health, I think it's going to be very evident, and it's just time. It's really this year time to step it up as far as routines go for taking care of health, our spiritual health, our emotional health, our physical health, all of the healths, all of them, right? And I think on the world front, maybe we'll see something here when this is happening, do in terms of our health, in terms of some type of maybe medicine or maybe some health crisis, maybe something to do with health, toxicity, something like that on the world front. And this is another one of those dualities here, these juxtapositions, because the south node here, the south node is the lunar eclipse point of endings, karmic endings. And the sun in a solar eclipse is about newness and bringing newness in. So again, the two working in tandem to bring about our highest evolution. I just keep seeing that all throughout the year. When we move into, and also what I want to say is, I want to say a few things about this. This year has started off with a bang, real literally, and it feels like you know when you go into a restaurant and there are little icons on the side of the menu that show us about the food, if it's wheat free or gluten free rather, or dairy free, or how hot it is, and it might show you, you know, the wheat shafts for the gluten, and it might show you if it's hot, like a hot banana pepper or a tamale. My analogy for this year is this year started off like as like a one hot tamale on the menu, and by the end of the year we're going to be at 5 hot tamales. That's how I see it playing out, that by the end of the year I think it's just going to keep accruing and building, and both in anticipation and good things, not necessarily horrible or awful things. I just see so much building and so much impacting us and profound changes, and the acceleration, like how time is just going by so fast. So that's pretty much it for 2025, but I want to show you a couple of dates in 2026. As I had said, all the planets are going to move around the zodiac, the ones that move fast, and Mercury there's going to be a whole lineup again connecting here to the North Node, Mercury being the first one. And here's that 9-degree point that Mercury is going to come back to after that first new moon at 9 degrees that happens this February 27th, 2025. So again, just pay attention what themes are coming up. This is going to be news that relates to something that happens in the new moon period of, what did I just say, February 27th. And so Mercury deals with news. It's the mercantile, it's commerce, it's our siblings, it's travel, it's fast, it's our intelligence, our communication style. And Venus is not too far behind him. So Venus is co-present here, and Saturn is back here still in Pisces. So there's still that element of, I just see it as grounding this area of the chart and bringing some structure to it, because that's what Saturn does. Now, on February 17th of 2026, Venus is the next planet to conjunct the North Node, and this is her fourth pass over the North Node, her fourth Passover. So by this time, it's like this time that we're being given, this very special time to set it straight, whatever it is, whether it's in our finances or in our relationship or our creativity, whatever love that is that needs to be brought about. And I see peace too, like peace and harmony. And by this time, Mercury has moved forward, but Mercury is there and co-present present. So good. So talking, peace talks, harmonious talks between you and your beloved other, and just information. Maybe because Mercury also rules writing, so maybe something to do with works of art that are finally ready to be released to the public now that Venus has been here and been influenced by this North Node and has gone all the way around and cycled around again. So that's what I see there. On February 27th of 2026, the Sun is going to come into a conjunction, and this is the other point here at 8 degrees. Jupiter's still in Cancer, and it's still in its exalted position, really influencing Pisces. And so we can see here again, this Sun coming up to the North Node at that same point, very near the same point that the new moon and the solar eclipse, that the new moon on February 27th and the solar eclipse of March 29th. So just informing us again, more information. Again, Venus is co-present. She's exalted here in Pisces, and Mercury is still there. So information of some sort, again, some type of harmony, benevolence, and influencing maybe our markets, because both Venus and Mercury are present here. Yes, and that's what I see there. And this again is just paying attention to what's happening now and moving it forward. Let's just all wait to see what happens. But I think this is some really good energy here too. This conscious awareness being brought to the North Node point of our lives, our destiny point, and how we want to move this forward. So then Mars conjuncts the North Node right here. The North Node and Mars are at 8 degrees, the same 8 degrees as I had just spoken to before, the same point. So Mercury has gone through, Venus has gone through, the Sun has gone through, and Mars is also going to go through now, right? And conjunct it. And so Mars is the planet of action, and it can be, it likes to action things. It's our willpower. It can be a bit aggressive. So when it's coming, but in water, it doesn't function as well. It's a fire planet. So it may be a little bit, depressed in Mars and not acting as well as it could. It's not as depressed, however, as it is in its sign of its fall, which is Cancer, but it still doesn't operate as it normally would, but it's still stronger, and now it's in conjunction here too. So all of that information that passed through before the other planets, now Mars is going to come along and try to and help us to action things, bring things forward, just those final, whatever initiation needs to happen here, whatever push needs to happen. I see Mars being able to do that, and Mercury is still here, and it's moving in retrogression. So now after this on March 22nd, let's see. Okay, so I do want to make note that Mercury is going to come back and conjunct the North Node, because Mercury is going to pass over it and then pass over it again. So it's going to move in retrograde. So, and this is Mercury's conjunction to the North Node. So again, information, and Mars is here too. So Mars, this planet that wants to action whatever information is coming through, and then Mercury is going to be here. Jupiter is still here, exalted in Cancer, still informing this house, still bringing about the best. And we are going to, again, information coming in, news coming in that will just help drive us forward. And so it's going to be a whole year of this. And again, this is that same point, the same point at 8 degrees that's going to be it's going to be initiated and continue to be stimulated by this North Node, by these planets in this house of Pisces. Finally, here on July 26th, 2026, of course, my times are always Pacific time, so adjust for your time schedule, your time zone. The nodes move out of Pisces into Aquarius and out of Virgo into Leo. So that's it. That's the things I will be covering. There's actually even a few other things that probably as we go along I'll cover, but this is the bulk of the transits and what they mean generally. And then as I break down each sign, I'll go through I'll go through where I think it's going to affect each sign and what we can expect. I want to tell you, because people always ask me if they should listen to their sun, their moon, and their rising sign. Now, I do consider the rising sign most accurate, but I also know that there are people who don't have their birth times and they only might know their sun sign. So, but let's just break this down. The ascendant is most accurate because it determines the rest of the chart and where the placements of the planets are and the transits are happening, and then we can gauge what's happening in each house house as it relates to your house and translate that. It is therefore about very physical and material manifestations and deals with your actual physical body. The moon is more about your psychology, your emotions, your inner workings. It does deal more with the soul of the individual. It can deal with women. It can deal with your mother, your land, your homeland, your home, real estate. It also has to do on the world stage as it represents the masses. But in your own chart, when you are listening to it, it's about those other things, your emotions, your internal psychology. It is a point that is considered more karmic, just like the nodes that we're talking about. They're considered more karmic because these are the nodes of the moon. And the moon itself is considered more of a programmed or learned behavior or response. The sun is more about your purpose, your goals, what you want to achieve in your life. It's about the things your ideals and the things that you want to strive for. It does oftentimes deal with career and the direction of your career. It's more about your free will. It's representative of the spirit and that free will and that vitality that comes with that. Those are the three ways you can look at any of them. I would encourage you to listen to all three if you know all three, to get more of a broader sense of it. Kind of covers more territory and you can hear more about what would be happening in your life. That's what I would say. And also keep in mind, if you have a stellium, and a stellium is when there are three or more planets or even points. Some people consider the points, three more planets in one area of your chart. So if you have three or more planets, you might still want to listen to that. So just keep that in mind when you're listening. As well, these are just general readings. It's pretty impossible to estimate what would be happening in your life without actually seeing your chart, because every chart is very specific and very individual. And these are just overall themes that I see, and I'm just pointing out. To see your chart, to actually give you a better estimate or projection of your chart, I would have to see your chart. And so that's why astrologers online, we're just doing general readings. And if you want a very specific to you reading, it's best to just consult with a professional and consulting astrologer. Okay, beloved soul. If you got through all that, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That is my breakdown of the nodal shift through Pisces and Virgo for the next year and a half. Now, the next videos will be the actual signs that I'll release one at a time, because it's editing. Editing is what slows me down all of the time. So thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss your upload. Stay blessed, beloved souls.